Some say my future not that bright. Some say I'm useless, unholy, and I'm not living right. But at the beginning of the day, look in the mirror and say, I am somebody. Oh. Well, I believe the future's in my hand.
Something we've heard all of our lives culminates again this weekend and all this week. I am somebody. It's been a mantra for everyone in my generation ever since we were kids. The Rainbow Push International Convention is this weekend. The Reverend Jesse Jackson joins us now. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Mark. How are you today?
I'm just fine. I'm fine. Excited for the convention this week, huh?
Well, we kick off really Wednesday with the Construction Expo, bringing together Black and Latino and white construction companies, training workers to take over these urban jobs. There's those flaggers, often women, flagging, go slow and all that, like $75 an hour jobs. We're doing a workshop all that day focused on, and you got mayors coming from around the country on how to take over the key jobs in the city's new infrastructure development. And Reverend Al Sharpton speaks at that breakfast that morning. That night is our gospel festival with B.B. Winans and the Mass Choir and Dr. Audrey DuBois Harris. It's going to be a great night. So on Thursday morning is our business breakfast as we keep expanding our work on Wall Street and Silicon Valley.
Mm-hmm.
John Rogers and others will be a part of that. And at noontime, the ministers are going to focus a lot on making lynching a federal crime and automatic voter registration for all of our states, banning assault weapons, and focusing particularly on voter registration this fall. There are 4 million blacks in the South unregistered. Take, for example, in Georgia, there's like 600,000 blacks unregistered in Georgia. If we reduce that in half, Stacey Abrams should win. She'll be speaking at the women's luncheon. Stacey Abrams will speak at the women's luncheon on Friday, the women's luncheon. That night we'll honor Jack Johnson. And, of course, Brian Stevens speaks for us on Saturday morning at our mass outdoor rally. So, mass will be a dynamite speaker. Reverend Barber speaks to the labor dinner on Thursday night.
Yes, sir.
For the campaigns. We got Reverend Barber, Reverend Sharpton, Stacey Abrams, Mark Thompson, John Rogers. It's just a host of people. And we have a plan for the fall to take the Congress back. That's our objective, take the Congress back this fall.
Indeed. This is the 47th annual convention, Reverend Jackson. How does it feel after 47 years?
Well, the excitement is still here. When I think about people come from all around we got 200 people coming from Africa.
Mm-hmm.
We're working on an exchange program between the Africans and African HBCUs. 100 people come from South Africa and then from Senegal and from Ghana and from Nigeria. We're trying to get students from HBCUs take a year's leave of absence, sabbatical, so to speak, study in Africa for a year. The Africans come and study HBCUs for a year. Got an international exchange program between our students and their formative years. That's exciting to me, the idea of going to Africa for a year to study, and they're coming here for a year. It's another breakthrough for us.
Yeah, no question about it. Rainbow Push International Convention, folks. I love to get the history lessons, Reverend. 47 years ago, the convention starts, but you all at one time in Chicago had something called the Black Expo. Has the Rainbow Push Convention kind of stepped in to fill that void? There's no longer still a Black Expo, is it?
So it's not. Actually, to go beyond that, I went to jail July 1960 with 7 classmates trying to use a library in Greenville, South Carolina in 1960.
Uh-huh.
Then began to work with CORE and Jim Palmer and NAAA and Roy Wilkins at that time. And then began to work with Dr. King. He was killed. Kind of what we began to do Harambe, a family festival, put together top artists and and political leaders setting out a course for the next 50 years. We went from the balcony in Memphis, the balcony of the White House in 40 years. We really, from the killing of Dr. King in Memphis, 68, we went through 40 years of wilderness struggles, finding our way. We lived in the White House in 2008. We never really stopped fighting. And in the days of struggle, we have a opposition today. We have a fascist regime in Washington today. It's really a threat to the whole world order. I mean, we're in a fight with Canada and Mexico. They've been embracing Putin. It's a strange combination, Mark.
It is. It is.
It was interesting, that you attacked Russia on the basis of moving into Crimea. They should not have done. We did the same thing with Iraq. We should not have done. We invaded and occupied Iraq and killed the leadership off and unleashed this terror that's now in the Middle East, so that in some sense you have a policy that's consistent. Human rights as its foundation, at its core.
Yeah, yeah. Great minds think alike, Reverend. I literally just said those very same words, drawing a comparison with Iraq just before we called you to be on the air with us. What are your thoughts about North Korea and what may or may not happen there in the summit?
First of all, I think the North is not going to give up their weapons. We meet them because they have the power. We can't say no to meet with them. I think really it's a really meet between North and South Korea because they're neighbors, and we should be the referee. Now, it's not our shot to call, Mark, in a real sense. If the process of family reunification is established and North and South Korea begin to get along, then that's the beast to be seen. I'm on the way out to Wheeling, Illinois, even as we speak now, to meet with South Korean and North Koreans and have a press conference on the issue of family reunification.
Mm-hmm.
The hopes are very high, and I think that denuclearization is not going to take place in the time soon. Nor is it necessary to bring about the basic relations that we see bring.
Yeah, yeah. In other words, it is really about North and South more so than about North and Trump, who I think wants to use this as sort of a photo op. And you recall too, Reverend, Barack Obama was chastised for even considering meeting or sitting down with the Kim regime at the time he was president. And now the Hannitys and the Fox News of the world are encouraging Trump to do it.
Kim Jong-un has been very smart. He has, and during this season, he has met with the leaders of China and South Korea, and met leadership of where they are now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he has been very, very strategic in that regard. Folks, Rainbow Push Coalition, 47th Annual International Convention. Reverend, we've not talked since we talked about 50 years since Lorraine Motel. We've not talked since the commemoration of 50 years since the Ambassador Hotel and Bobby Kennedy. Your thoughts on that?
It was a double blow. On the day of Dr. King's funeral, I sat in the room with Bobby Kennedy and Harry Belafonte and Sidney Poitier, talking about the tragedy of Dr. King's loss, what that meant to us, and how we were going to double down for the Poor People's Campaign, in Washington. And of course, Kennedy never hit the road. He was killed. He just took the hair out of us. And you had these two assassinations, April 4th and June 5th, died on June 6th. We overcame it some kind of way, but man, his death was very calculated. I don't think these major assassinations are by chance. Whether it's Abraham Lincoln or Dr. King or Robert Kennedy, they did not die of natural causes. Very organized assassinations, mob attacks.
Do you think Bobby Kennedy could have actually been elected president in 1968? He seemed to have a lot of momentum.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the only reason the Hunt was lost, frankly, was Dr. King's death and Robert Kennedy's death. We had no moral authority left.
Yeah. Reverend Jason Jackson with us. We lost him. Yeah, we'll see if we can get him back real quick. Just to get his closing thoughts. Rainbow Push International Convention this weekend in Chicago. I'll be there. RainbowPush.org. Don't meet me there. Beat me there. And we look forward to, as always, this very, very historic event, the 47th annual Rainbow Push International Convention. I think we have him back, don't we? There we go. Reverend, you cut off just as you were saying the only reason Humphrey lost was what again?
Because the debacle at the convention in 1968, no one could speak to the chaos and the confusion.
Mm-hmm.
And with Kennedy gone and Dr. King gone, and the progressive left disintegrated. And even with all of that, we lost by 500,000 votes, maybe 400,000 votes. We could have beat Nixon in 1968. So we lost Kennedy, we lost more than man, we lost a generation of hope.
Yeah.
We rebounded, but it was slow in coming.
Did that early on, did you start thinking about and wondering, maybe somebody should run for president? Maybe even Reverend Jackson should run for president someday. Did that start bubbling up inside you at all?
It did, but not me. I met with Carl Stokes and met with Percy Sutton, Basil Patterson, and David Dinkins, and Dick Hatch. We began to meet, talk about it, and just what would it look like. And of course, in 72, when Shirley Chisholm ran, she ran. Bill Adams looking the women out of New York, and she ran a bit late. I think if she ran earlier, obviously it would have been a big help. But more than that, she didn't come to the convention in 1972 in Gary. That was solidified her black base. I don't know why she didn't come to it, but she had, I think, would have made a big difference in that campaign. But the idea of a black runner began to bubble up for real after 68. Like, what go from here? The White House is what we go from here, and that's what we went to in 50 years.
Yeah.
40 years.
And some of those folks, it's something to go to Rainbow Push Convention, folks, and hang out with Mayor Hatch of Gary. I was able to spend time with him last year. The brother of Reverend Jackson, talking about lynching legislation. The brother of Fred Hampton is always there as well, and we know that history in Chicago, what happened to Fred Hampton and Mark Clark. Lastly, you mentioned Nixon, though, Reverend. Do you see any parallel between Nixon and China and Trump and North Korea? Wasn't Nixon trying to kind of, legitimize himself and get some of the heat off of him in dealing with China?
Frank, I thought Nixon is a far more systematic politician than Trump, far more prepared than Trump. Trump's taking on Mexico and Canada, embracing North Korea, embracing Russia. Nixon never thought that way. No one ever has, really. Then one can say he may be using some of this as a diversion but Mueller's team continues to meet.
Yeah.
And the indictments continue to come.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, we tip right there. And the thing about it today, because all news is international news, calling saying the man stabbed him in the back from go to hell. The Prime Minister of Canada. These are irreparable damages on our borders. That's inviting. Suppose Canada, Mexico being serious and enemy is supposed to bring. We couldn't defend our borders from China, from Canada, or defend our borders from Mexico. We need this. These are allies.
Indeed. RainbowPush.org, folks, 47th Annual International Convention. We look forward to that. We'll be there ourselves, and we look forward to a great time. There's always a great reunion there to see so many people who've been involved in the struggle for many years, and young people, too.
773-FREEDOM, 773-FREEDOM. Our website, RainbowPush.org, get more information.
All right.
Come and let's organize the mission. Our mission is November 6, 2018. That's our mission.
Yes, sir.
One mission. We'll take the Congress and the Senate back in 2018.
Indeed. Reverend, thank you. See you in a couple of days, man, okay?
Thank you, sir.
All right, take it. Reverend Jesse Jackson, rainbowpush.org, 773 Freedom. We'll be back, folks. Sirius XM Parkers 127 Resistance Radio. Get woke, get ready for impeachment. This is MIP.